Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is brought to you by Simone S., who donated for a rather neat mono black deck, a little bit different from many of the things that we've played on this channel. Just as a heads up, it's early morning for me and the girlfriend's still asleep, so I'm going to talk a little bit quieter today and the lighting's going to be a little bit different than usual. So apologies if you have to turn the volume up a little bit. Alright, so why is this mono black deck different from a lot of the other things that we've played on the channel recently, such as Curses? And the answer is it's trying to play some colorless cards. Not like Chalice of the Void, but ones that actually require colorless mana. So this deck has opted to play Reality Smashers and Stonecoil Serpent as ways to have large creatures to close out the game. A lot of times these mono black decks can have really good lockout turns in the first couple of turns with things like Chalice, Trinisphere, and even Leyline of the Void serving those functions. But then they struggle to actually clock and really get the job done. If you're trying to win with Curse of Misfortune, it's a turn before you put that curse into play. And then sometimes it's another turn before that curse really starts doing its thing. Sometimes you need multiple curses. So instead, we just gain the ability to realistically kill the opponent in 3 or 4 turns with these large creatures, and I think that's an interesting direction to explore. Now, notably, if we are going to be on a plan like that, we do need more colorless producing lands than normal. So Ifnir Deadlands and Wasteland are the ways that this deck is trying to accomplish that, and it's playing a couple of Urborgs to make sure that you can get your black mana. Now, notably, other than hardcasting Leyline of the Void, there's no double black symbols in this deck. So even though sometimes the colorless +1 color decks like White Eldrazi struggle a little bit on mana, we're not trying to play a double pip card like Palace Jailer or Sanctum Prelate or something like that. So I'm hoping the mana base works out okay. Otherwise, a lot of the regular mono black staples are here, things like Opposition Agent, Plague Engineer, Karn the Great Creator, that sort of stuff. I do want to quickly highlight a couple of the sideboard cards. Soul Shatter is one of the 3 mana removal spells that sometimes sees play in these sorts of decks. It has the opponent sacrifice a creature or planeswalker with the highest CMC among the creatures and planeswalkers they control. So you don't get to pick what you remove, but if you're taking out the thing with the highest CMC, that frequently means that you're grabbing the best thing. Another thing that's here is Feed the Swarm, which is one of the few ways that black can actually remove an enchantment, which can be useful for things like Sylvan Library. Um, Predictions for the deck going into the league. I don't like non-tutorable one-ofs in the sideboards of these decks. So when you're not playing cantrips, if you play a one-of, you have a 1 in 60 chance of drawing it, that first draw, and it goes up slightly from there, right? This is a deck that has access to a Karn the Great Creator package, and that's a package of 6 cards, not counting the copies of the redundant Sorcerous Spyglasses here. So I'm wondering if, the singletons here should be more things for the Karn Wishboard, or if they should be more redundant copies of something else. Should both of these things be the same? Are there too many copies of Sorcerer Spyglass now that Oko isn't running around in the format? Those are the sorts of things that I'm going to be thinking about as I start to play this league. I suppose the other thing I'm going to be keeping an eye on is what I think of Leyline Helm when we're not fully leaning into it. There's only a single Leyline here in the main deck, and Karns make it so that you have access to a second Helm through the sideboard. But a lot of times the decks like Curses will play more than one Helm so that you can more reliably have this A plus B combo kill. Does the Helm and Leyline package still feel good if a lot of times we're planning on winning aggro? And I guess the last thing I want to be thinking about is, how is Read the Bones going to do? Is it going to be okay to play something that loses me life to draw me cards? The selection is kind of nice and something that is definitely lacking in a mono black deck. But, Daze is a card, Spell Pierce is a card. Is this okay? Is this card advantage worth it? All right, those are the things that I'm thinking about going into this league. Let's go and accidentally, kill some Uro decks with Game 1 Leyline of the Void. All right, if you're excited about this legacy content, please consider throwing me a like or a comment before this video gets started. And if you end up wanting to play this one, remember my deck list and donation information is always in the video description. All right, let's battle. I'll be keeping this hand. It has a very clear plan. Plan is put Trinisphere into play on turn 2, and then win on turn 3 with Helm of Obedience. So I want to play Helm around Daze. Or sorry, Trinisphere around Daze next turn at the cost of more life. I think I do. Leading on this means that I can be wastelanded, but that's okay because I have so much mana in my hand. Ooh. Spicy. I think I go ahead and play Ancient. Seems... Oh, I see. They want to trigger that now. But in the face of Trinisphere and Leyline of the Helm, like, you're facing down lethal from a Helm next turn. I don't know. Okay, deck starting out strong. So we are playing against a deck. What exactly are we playing against? Maybe a rug or 4-color control deck? They're playing Ice Fang Coatl, but we saw triple non-basic land, which is interesting. I don't know that we get to do that many games that are just that easy, right? The Helm is a one of, and we just happen to have it in the same hand as a Leyline. I'm going to assume that Read the Bones is probably bad if my opponent is going to pressure my life total quite a bit. I'm going to assume that Plague Engineer is good. From there, it's a little harder. Chains is probably hilariously good. Try to get that in there. Granisphere is probably fine. Not 100% comfortable with Soul Shatter, given how little information I have on what exactly my opponent is doing. I'm just going to trim one of those and call that good as a starting point. This one's got to go back, it just doesn't have enough mana. Same though. This'll do. I have to throw 2 of these back. That's one of them. I don't know what the other one is. I think it's going to be that, and I'm just going to keep my mana and the chalices and hope that having a proactive game plan against, like, what is presumably a deck that just wants to draw a billion cards is good. Alright. Until I drew that, I was really thinking about playing this game out slower. But now I just have the option of Chalice on 1 into Chalice on 2, which is disgusting. Alright. Don't like to ferry me here. It'll be embarrassing. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now I need to think for a second. Deck list. Mono black. Rip that Valky at the wrong time. So about 9 cards at CMC2 that are really important. And then I have a bunch of stuff that's bigger than that that's going to be important later on. I think... I go ahead and just try to keep my opponent from casting big things that can go over my Chalice. In respect of something like an Uro, I'm going to attack the green mana. Yeah, force is fine if I have most of my opponent's deck shut off. Same. Now, notably, I do want to be careful to not, like... Oh, well... that's a little annoying. Mostly because we... Wow. That was unexpected. Anyway, finishing my thought, I mostly need to be careful here because I have a couple of cards like Eliminate and my X cost creature that I'm just totally blanking on the name of right now. That I need to make sure I don't counter with my own Chalice. Weave plus Dak Vaden is certainly cute. I am legit in trouble here. Now my opponent has Uro backed by double Force of Will. I think this is the point where I just concede. Like, my opponent had Stifles too. If I play this Stonecoil Serpent, it can't be stolen by Dak. Let's play another turn or two. Because there is the off chance that I can just go, like, Leyline into Helm. Or something like that. It's unlikely. Alright, they're going that route, huh? Since they figured that out, we're going to go ahead and concede. Alright, in case you're not aware of what's going on here, Narset's static ability is going to go and keep me from drawing more than one card each turn, and combined with Dak Vaden targeting me, that's a route for me to discard a whole bunch of my cards. I think I'm going to go ahead and pack it in there. I thought they were just going to keep using, like, the Dak Vaden Squee and, like, go that route. but it seems like that's not the case. All right. Now, given what I've seen, things look differently than in game one. So I definitely overrated these plague engineers. And I underrated Sorceress Spyglass. Let's go back down on some plague engineers. Get a bunch of Sorceress Spyglasses in here. My opponent's more of a controlling deck. Maybe I want opposition agents just as another threat. And I go down like some Trinispheres or something. They brought in 4 other lock pieces, and I just don't want to like pull out creatures. While Trinisphere is cool, maybe it's just a little bit more important to have answers to Planeswalkers, like Sorcerer Spyglass and Soul Shatter. Let's try this for the next game. This is not a keepable hand versus this strategy. This is fine. And keep this and pitch one of the swamps. I did really want a Leyline start, but not bad enough to pitch the Chalice of the Void opposition agent hand. Classic. It's a shame too, because opposition agent plus Dark Ritual would be really good against a fetch land. I am doing this purely for the sake of my curve. Next turn I'm going to want to play opposition agent, and so I'm just going to get this 2/2 into play. Like, just having it around means that my opponent can't just like easily play out Planeswalkers. Ba-ba-da-bum. Nice. What do I want? What do I want to take? Guess I should take a screen and spirit guide. Oh no, sorry, that's a squee. Let's take a screenshot of that and just throw that over here. I think I want to attack the green mana from the look of things here. Like, I know they have a Volk in hand, and they're only going to need 1 red. So green becomes one of the choke points. For Uro specifically. Okay, quick check. Does my opponent have any sweepers? Opponent does not have any sweepers, in which case this is fine. Note, protection from multicolored. Are we done? We might be done here. Oh no. Alright, opponent did find a basic land. Be an interesting question whether or not I actually attack with Opposition Agent next turn, because there's possibility of another Ice Fang Coatl being played. I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock, theoretically, even if I don't attack with both Stonecoil Serpents. Oh, might not. They just play something and tap themselves out of Ice Fang Coatl range, like maybe I do. I don't really want my opponent fetching. So when I searched my opponent's library, they had 2 Ice Fang Coatls in there. If they have 4, that means they have another in their hand right now. Go ahead and just attack with both of these. Alright, Stonecoil Serpent versus Karn, the Great Creator now. Karn lets me get Liquid Metal Coating and attack my opponent's mana harder. And maybe makes the Ice Fang Coatl attack, but plays into Force of Negation, which I haven't really given my opponent a chance to cast other than on turn 1. Whereas Stonecoil Serpent just works towards getting my opponent dead. I think I like doing this first and just keeping the pressure up. My opponent has Ancient Grudge that answers the larger Stonecoil Serpent. About it. Can't Dak Faden take it. I guess I could make a bunch of cats and trade with it that way. But as you can see by the amount of time that my opponent is spending just thinking about what to do here, their position probably isn't great. Their Brainstorms and Preordains also, and Ponders also lose out on a little bit of value. Without the ability to search. Alright, would I trade Opposition Agent for both of my opponent's creatures? Yes. In which case I will attack. How do I want to play this? I want to grab the Liquid Metal Coating now. I don't have to worry about Lightning Bolt. I just grab Tormod's Crypt so that an Uro can't come back and represent a whole lot of life gain. I don't hate that. battle with just the 4/4 here, I think. Could also just attack with everything. Don't hate that either. If I just battle with the 4/4, my opponent doesn't have great blocks. If I battle with everything, life also isn't great. Yeah. Let's send it all. That's all fine with me. I don't think my opponent gets out of this without multiple cards and Trinisphere. I can also just plus on Trinisphere next turn to give me an additional body. I also could have just grabbed Liquid Metal Coating and used it as like Rishadan Port for a turn before starting to blow up my opponent's lands. Thing about Trinisphere, though, is that it keeps my opponent from double spelling, so it stops something like, for example, Wilt into Lightning Bolt on opposition agent. Now my opponent is facing down 3 different lethal threats, or 2 different lethal threats. So if they just pass the turn, I attack in with both of my creatures, and like they probably can't do anything about that. An Ancient Grudge targeting a Trinisphere. That's fine. So notably, I can't really use Tormod's Crypt to get rid of Ancient Grudge here. Yep, well, that's okay. Like, I still have lethal in play. Yep, the opponent just wanted to take some stuff on the way out. GG. This hand is lacking in black mana, so I think it has to go back, despite the fact that I can do turn 0 Leyline and then do Trinisphere. I just don't think this hand goes anywhere unless I spike basic swamp or something. I guess this will do. I don't think I have any black cards other than Leyline. Leyline doesn't count because I'm going to put one into play. Don't. And this is a non-basic, so it can't be destroyed. I guess I can put back Swamp number 2 safely. So the thing with this hand is that I don't really want to play City of Traders on turn 2, because at some point in this game I am probably going to want to get to 4 mana, but I also want to play Opposition Agent on turn 2, which means that I want both of these things. So my mind immediately goes towards Show and Tell after seeing that. That was a top. Is Show and Tell. I don't think I'm particularly well suited to beating it this time. It has a draw stop set on my turn. So I keep playing to get that fetch. Now, assuming that my opponent is playing some sort of blue-white-ish deck. Like my opponent already might have played around opposition agent by not fetching. And just go. Then that walks directly into like literal counterspell, for example. Would walk into a daze. I've got a bad read on what my opponent is actually on. I'm just gonna pass here. The opposition agent eats the swords to plowshares later, so that Reality Smasher lives. It's a pretty big win for me. Alright, that's a Fencer. So we could be playing against Miracle, or we could be playing against the deck formerly known as Espervile. There's a blue-white version running around. Okay, no, we are playing against blue-white Omnitel. The Venser there is able to combo off with Teferi, or I think there's something else it combos off with too. The idea being you Teferi and bounce. You have Venser in play, you use Teferi to bounce the Venser, and then you Venser to bounce the Teferi, and each time you do that loop, you draw a card. So that's another way to draw your whole deck. House on 3? House on 3 is pretty sick. The Venser is pitch, right? Yeah. Then I just need to resolve either Eliminate or Reality Smasher to answer this so that it can't bounce the Chalice in the future. It's a little harder for me to win, but fine. I think that's fine. The volcanic island is probably for pyroblasts in the sideboard? Question mark? I don't know why this deck would need pyroblast. Like, their main decking to fairies, which does the same thing. Not a concession to Uro, because they can already be playing Swords to Plowshares. Two, four, five, six, seven, which means I can do both of these things in the same turn if I'm fine with giving up City of Traders. I think I am. It's never not going to weird me out. Alright. I probably have my opponent on a 2-turn clock between drawing some other threat and them fetching. 100%, but probably. With their vents are gone, and they can't Teferi either, I don't know what sort of outs they're on to actually win the game. I guess it's Hardcast and Omniscience. So they could put together a whole bunch of like Lotus Petals and maybe do that, but that's really a stretch. Especially with this 3-ball coming down. No one say anything. It's 6 in the morning for me. I got up 5 minutes ago. Also, this is a different morning than last round because that's how this week has gone. Okay, so that's them committing, right? That's them going to 5. So it's like find a source to plowshares to answer this or go off. And they've left open the white to do that. Oh, it's top top. So they found something that they were looking for. Now there's a long pause. This is long pause. At them realizing that they can't like survive another turn because they fetched. Not sure what this pause is indicating, because like if you got the Swords to Plowshares, you'd do the Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, okay, I think that is what happened. They topped, thinking they had one more turn than they did, and then they died because they lost that 1 life from the fetch land. All right. This is, I guess, pretty legitimately interesting. I can be thinking about Soul Shatters, Trinispheres, I suppose the Chains. I'm not sure that either Feed the Swarm or Sorcerer Spyglass actually does enough here. Like a Sorcerer Spyglass can shut down a Grizzlebrand or a fetch land, and Feed the Swarm can technically answer a Grizzlebrand or an Omniscience. But I don't know. I think I'll keep the Eliminates for the Fairy, because that's something that can like be bouncing the clock piece. I don't really love Plague Engineer. I think those are going out. That gives me Chains and Trinisphere. Arn as of right now, if I don't leave the Trinisphere in the board, it's a Spyglass, which is it's Coding, which is it's Helm, which is but occasionally Helm against this deck will just like steal a game. Alright, if I was the opponent, would I just jam a Show and Tell for an Emrakul ASAP? My answer is yes. That probably means I should do Soul Shatter. And also just answer to Fairy. If I'm doing this, I need to be cutting something else, and I think I need the Trinispheres and the Chalices. I think I'm going to bump that Helm to the sideboard. Like, it's a one of that requires me to have something else in play in order to be good. and I don't think I can go down a threat. So that means either dropping Dark Ritual or Read the Bones, and an opt for Read the Bones. I think it's also reasonable to go down on Karn here. This is a hand that has a lot of tools, but it doesn't do anything quickly. My opponent leads on a basic land. I don't think this hand is playable. They lead on a non-basic. This hand is probably fine. I'm going to go ahead and try to find something with a soul land. No soul land, but this is a turn 2 Karn. Let's keep this. All right, so for game 3, aware that my opponent might not play around Wasteland. Good intel. The 3/3 on turn 1 better than Karn on turn 2? Probably not. How do I want to play Karn on turn 2? I think off Dark Ritual, so that I can keep the City of Traders around, so that I can work towards a Mycosynth Lattice kill with Karn. I can lead on the Deadlands there to represent Opposition Agent off a Dark Ritual, but I don't think opponent would play around that. That's fucking wild. I mean, obviously, I love it. That explains the red. Wasn't for sideboard Pyroblast. Okay. Old school. Maybe, alright. Does this mean I'm not supposed to worry about the creatures so much? Unsure. How do I want to do this? I think it's still the Dark Ritual, even though I have this. This is a moment where if I still had that Trinisphere in the board, it would be real sick. So do I just grab Mycosynth Lattice here? And then if my opponent casts Show and Tell, I put in Mycosynth Lattice, and that's kind of hilarious. Let's do that. Nice. Note that is a look at, that's not a search, so that does get around opposition agent. Get Rashad Port out of our sideboard. Now I've really put the squeeze on my opponent's mana between like Wasteland, Opposition Agent, and Liquid Metal Coating for Karn. That ended up working out really well for us. Admittedly, if our opponent did have the Show and Tell and the Omniscience on 3 mana, we weren't going to come out ahead on that one, but we managed to pull together a win pretty well. It's still pretty interesting whether or not I should have kept that Trinisphere in the sideboard for the same sort of situation that I saw there. Let me know in the comments what you think about that one. I've kept my opening hand here. How we play it out is going to be really interesting and dependent on what our opponent does. Oh, well, alright, now we're going to Wasteland. We'll do that on our opponent's upkeep. But, like, this hand's sick. Do I want to run it back? Double down on the Wasteland? Kinda do. I think this hand is in the situation where if I take my opponent off of cantripping, I will probably be able to beat a turn 1 Delver. 3 natural lands. Alright, that's rough. Now I lose this Dark Ritual and I'm in bad shape. But I don't think you normally expect the Delver deck to open up on 3 natural lands. Just in terms of math, that's pretty uncommon. Like 3 lands, none of which were Wasteland. That's okay. I doubled down and it didn't work. That's fine. Yeah, easiest Dark Ritual take ever. Oh, I don't have a bridge in my sideboard. Interesting. Figure that part out later. My opponent gets to look at a pretty large number of cards this turn to try to find an answer to the incoming chalice. Here's that they have found one. Oh, nope, not yet. Although, if I'm being honest, the Chalice of the Void is maybe not even a problem. Like, if you know I have two Chalice of the Voids, that means you have to counter them on two back-to-back turns. It might just be better to counter things like Karn, Opposition Agent, Helm. Like, counter anything that threatens mess with the Delver or to pressure your own life total. Oh, they just found Garmag Angler. Oh, I'm gonna die to that. Realistically, I have 3 life left, which means I cannot tap Ancient Tomb twice, which means that I do not have an out of Helm this turn, Leyline next turn. I go to 3, that means drawing 1 single target removal spell next turn is not fine. Go to 3, Plague Engineer is not fine. Go to 3, Stonecoil Serpent is not fine either. Yeah. We got. Didn't expect my opponent to make that many land drops. Fine. I haven't played against Grixis Delver in a hot minute. Alright, generally speaking, against Delver decks, I really don't like playing Trinisphere when I'm on the draw. You just get like behind the gun, and like your opponent goes turn 1 Delver and then you go Trinisphere, like that Delver is still hitting you, right? So between like Delver hits and Ancient Tombs, Trinisphere on the draw is rough. On the play, it's fine. We might end up cutting it. I don't think I have time or the life for Read the Bones. This form is not a good answer to Garmag Angler. I'm going to just move this to keep it in mind. I think even on the play, I'm going to go down the Trinispheres, and I'm just going to take a quick scan to see if there's anything else I want to get rid of. If I keep a Leyline hand, then Garmag Angler is much less of a problem. Turn's also not great versus these Delver decks, especially since I can't grab a Snaring Bridge. Normally the best thing that I can do. I guess my next question is, do I want to play Chains? Chains comes at the cost of cutting something like an Opposition Agent, which, well, I don't think it's great. I do still need to get my opponent dead. I think I'm going to keep it in here. No? Probably no. Just doesn't have consistent mana. Also not good. Better than the last one, but not happy about this. I do have a good number of mana sources I can draw in order to get out of this situation. I mean, that's what I don't want to see, like basic land and Delver as a start. Oh, that's not bad. It flips to Bolt. Means I might get less value out of something like a Plague Engineer or Opposition Agent. Land. Oh, yeah. Wizard, Human Insect. Doing the idiot check for myself here. Let it resolve. Let it resolve. I'm in trouble. Because now one of my permanent mana sources is Ancient Tomb against a against a double Delver, double Lightning Bolt situation. Oh, I am so dead. Um, without something like without a prison piece like Ensnaring Bridge to get me through this situation, I expect to be dead within about 2 minutes. Opponent's also on 1 land, which means hand is just gas. Like the Lightning Bolts aren't live cards yet, but they don't need to be live cards yet. Play in. I'm not going to give them the mana to brainstorm. Also going to try not to tap this Ancient Tomb because, you know, life total. So once this connects, once my opponent has red mana, they get to dome me over the course of 2 turns. Oh, I think that's the wrong one. I think you just take out. Well, maybe it's not. I have to pretend I don't know what card in my hand. Like, I'm theoretically dead as soon as my opponent has red mana. So taking me off Ancient Tomb takes me off 3 drops on board for next turn. I don't draw another land. Since my opponent has mana open, I'm going to do this Soul Shatter on their turn. Means that they can't. Oh, well. Like, especially, please take out that Ancient. But I guess, like, if you have the Force of Will, it doesn't matter much anyway. Alright, so I have to rip something like Eliminate here. The way to go, right? My opening hand here doesn't really have a true game plan. A 3-3 on turn 1 isn't the way that I'm hoping to win here. Let's go ahead and mulligan this one. On the play? I'm on the play. I have a turn 1 Trinisphere, but I don't have more lands. 25 mana sources remaining. 6 mana remaining. YOLO? I don't know that things get better if I go to 5. Do it. I have no 0 drops in my deck other than sideboard Torment, right? That is correct. I don't have Chrome Mox. Do I Chalice on 0? I don't think so, because if I draw a soul land, I'd really like to play Chalice on 1. I like these sorts of hands a lot more. Sorry, I like these sorts of hands a lot less than I used to, because now that Force of Negation exists, there's just a much higher chance of your opponent actually having something in the opening hand that deals with your, like, YOLO hate piece keep. That said, I don't think we go to 5. Lands is so good here. We've bricked. I don't think I play a Stonecoil for 1. Need to play it for at least 2 so that it trades with a Delver later. We're at about 50% to draw a land on any given turn. Very good against Chalice of the Void, unfortunately. Alright. My opponent has a Daze or another counterspell. Which one of these things do I not want? Palace of the Void. I'm going to like need to eliminate Young Pyromancer. But the sooner I kill Young Pyromancer, the better. My opponent makes 2 or 3 elementals. Might actually be in pretty bad shape. And I'm not guaranteed to just like draw a land to be able to play around Daze later. Let's try to take it out. That'd be the ultimate feel bad if they just Daze this. Yeah. I don't know that I can give them that one turn though. Like my Karn is close to a do nothing card in this hand. Play around Force Negation by waiting here. I think I will do so. Because I'm not expecting a 2-mana hard counterspell. My opponent has Daze, like they can get me even if they tap out. Now there's a pause here. Maybe they're thinking about another Lightning Bolt. They are. Now I can play around a Spell Pierce by going for the Young Pyromancer now, as opposed to later. So I'll do that. Their last 2 cards are Force of Negation and blue card. Like, sucks to be me. But if I wait, and then if they have like another Lightning Bolt, another Brainstorm, for example, they get to use that mana in their upkeep, and then they get 1 more Elemental out of it. Like we lost that game when the Trinisphere didn't resolve. Plague Engineer looks even better than it did last round. Go with these. Pains and Feed the Swarm look better against this version. Let's go all those things out. I think let's board out the Helm. Opposition Agent will trade with Young Pyromancer and block Elemental tokens. Go down 1 Leyline. A little strange. Could board out all 4 Leylines and play 3 Trinispheres when I'm on the play. Makes it a little harder to actually get a kill with Karn. I don't hate it. Try that. And then on the draw, I'll play the Leylines over the Trinispheres. I don't love this hand, but I'm going to keep it. I'm also going to just play Opposition Agent on turn 1. It doesn't get Force of Negation, and if my opponent just has a handful of fetch lands and doesn't naturally have it, this is such a good lead. Alright. I had to have the Force of Will, not the Force of Negation. Okay. Arid Mesa seeing play in the year of Keranos 2021. Crazy. I won't be playing Karn next turn, I don't think. I would like to play Karn around a Daze. Unless I just jam Eliminate into Daze and then go for Karn now. I don't hate that. This is the way that's most likely to result in the board being clear for the Karn. And not having a bridge in the board play towards is a little rough. I don't think I can play the Karn this turn. I think I'm... The Wasteland there is so awkward, because otherwise I could just use this kill young Pyromancer and be in an okay spot. Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to get behind on board here and die. Alright, let's use this for the mana boost. Can't be dazed right now. I just want a plus here. Getting the cards isn't all that good. Maybe I just want a plus here and keep this loyalty high. And then if my opponent has a lightning bolt, I get a card out of Karn. So we're going to try to do this to pave the way for something like a Plague Engineer to actually resolve later. Wonder if they had that force before or not. I don't think I get to use this Wasteland. I think I have to keep it so that I can activate this next turn. What are you doing with, like a Sprite Dragon? Oh no, it's like a whale. They're paying costs. Yep. Three counter spells on it. Force, Daze Force. That's rough. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I can beat this. Like, it just returning a pile of counter spells means that I can't use things like my edict effects to clear this board, even once, like, I Plague Engineer. My opponent also just has 5 power worth of pressure, 7 power worth of pressure. Yeah, we're dead. I'll save this for the outro, but I don't think this deck feels good versus Delver. This opening hand doesn't really have a plan. Like, I put 2 Leylines into play and then nothing. This hand has a plan. It's a sketchy plan, but it's a plan. Plan is turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Karn, get Liquid Metal Coating, and then Liquid Metal Coating blow up my opponent's lands. I am going to keep this hand. I don't like this hand, but I don't think this one gets to go back. Again, when you start going 5 with this deck, I think you start running into the risk of just not having a good hand. Please don't play Ether Vial. Okay. We cleared step 1. Oh god. Step 2 is like, please don't play Thalia on turn 2, because I have exactly enough mana to do what I want. And I think I lose too much tempo if I lead on basic Swamp on turn 1 to try to get to 5 mana to play around Thalia. I think that just, yeah, okay, that's fine. Again, well, huh. Karn goes down to exactly 3 loyalty if I minus Karn to pick up Liquid Metal Coating, which probably means that I can't do that. Not great for me. This line is not good against a lot of things. The Flicker Wisps and Skyclave Apparitions of the world just make this line rough. Oh, we're dead. We lose to Rashadenport, almost certainly. Yep. All right, we can call this one here. I'm not going to beat 6 power on board. Again, not having access to something like an Ensnaring Bridge means that I just feel so bad versus aggressive starts from decks like Delver. And 2 3 power creatures in a row. I am way too under the gun here. My removal that I'm bringing in is also slow, which doesn't help. Guess we're gonna like go those out, these in. Guess there's some theoretical worlds where we can do some really sweet things with Opposition Agent. Alright, Sorcerer Spyglass, Soul Shatter. What do I want to do there? I think I need to keep the ley lines in, despite the fact that they don't like objectively do much against my opponent's deck. I think a Karn Helm kill is how I win most of these games. I don't think the Reality Smashers and Stonecoil Serpents are a consistent enough plan. And so that means I need to leave the ley lines in. If I'm leaving the ley lines in, I don't have room for both Spyglass and Soul Shatter. Like, both are good and both are important, but I also probably need Chalice when I'm on the play. Play a Soul Shatter on the play, and then we win this game, and I think that is a big if. we can revisit the sideboarding on the draw. What am I looking to do? Falling into a hand that has one of these. Like, this can turn one Chalice, and then make a turn 2 3/3, and eventually play a Karn. I don't see winning with this hand, despite the fact that this has like a really good mix of spells and lands and utility. Swamp, City, Dark Ritual, Karn. Get Liquid Metal Coating on turn 2. Not bad. Just get Helm, actually. Just get Helm. Alright, this hand has a plan. It also conveniently shuts off an Aether Vial start. And doesn't require the Karn to just live. Please. Alright. 3, 4. Like Karn this way. And we don't expose the city to wasteland. I think like basic swamp would be a pretty baller draw. Would be very happy with that. Probably means that I can't play out Helm, which is awkward for me. Yeah, Sorcerer Spyglass Wasteland here. Like, I can keep Karn alive by plussing it. Or I can just shut off Wasteland as an out to my City of Traders, which I think is what's important. It does turn their Vial back on. Or Schadenport, I guess, in this scenario. Path Exile being boarded in is a little interesting. Opposition Agent is better than Chalice of the Void here, because I play Opposition Agent and it gets Path to Exiled, and then I win. Alternatively, like, I might get to eat a mom in combat, which is also pretty cool. Make you tap the mom. They have not Path to Exiled me to give me the mana. I'd go ahead and do this pre-combat. The Thalia bounce trick is on board. I attack with opposition agent. They Path to Exile me. That means I have a win. Well, not a literal win, but like I can put the helm into play as of next turn. But I guess like if I'm not planning on winning this game by reducing my opponent's life total to 0, I should not attack here. Like the opposition agent shutting down recruiters and Stoneforges right now is totally fine and good. The big thing I need to worry about is Skyclave Apparition specifically. One, two, three, four, 5, 6. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's call it a turn there. Alright, so my opponent is going to have 2 cards. One of them is a Flicker Wisp or a Skyclave. They can keep doing their thing. Otherwise, I've got the combo kill. I could also think about playing a second Leyline first. I don't think I want to give them draws. Okay, so next turn I'll just play the second Leyline from hand, if that's fine. This sits in play for a turn, so it's vulnerable to another Skyclave. I think that's fine. Don't think I'm blocking the Skyclave if it attacks. I think it's just more important to not let them Recruiter of the Guard. Recruitering of the Guard for another Skyclave or a Revoker or something ends up just being so bad for me. There was a pause there on that vial. I'm going to assume that that was nothing and not I'm thinking about ticking up for Palace Jailer. That's now on the very back of my mind. All right. You have it. They do not have it. All right. Good stuff. Okay. On the draw. The Sorcerer Spyglass becomes a little more valuable on the draw. Chalice of the Voids become a little bit less valuable on the draw. So I know my opponent is still playing Moms, and I know they've boarded in extra removal spell. They have Path. So Chalice is okay. I think the Helm kill is still the primary way that I win. If I board down on Chalices, I can get better at answering equipment, other than just Karn. But maybe I need to keep the Chalices so that I can Mise Winds with Reality Smasher or a large Stonecoil Serpent. Not 100% sure here about that, though. I think Soul Shatter is kind of an awkward removal spell versus this deck. And that's what I would be boarding in over the Chalice, and Sorcerer Spyglass becomes a little awkward in the mid game. There's something like Athalia in play, using my entire turn to Sorcerer Spyglass is maybe not ideal. That would maybe be competing with things like Opposition Agent and Plague Engineer and Read the Bones that I want to be doing. I don't feel like this hand has enough mana to be successful. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. I just keep this hand on the strength of Plague Engineer? Probably on 6 cards. We're pretty good against like a Mother of Runes start and a Thalia start. We're pretty bad against an Aether Vial start. What am I most scared of here? Honestly, probably just like a Stoneforge Mystic. Nada, huh? In that case, what do I do about that? I wonder if my opponent is experiencing some lag here. If they're hanging out in end of combat. I'm just going to slow roll this one. it seems pretty likely that they kept a hand that has like Swords to Plowshares or Path to Exile or something of that nature. And I'm just going to take my time. Democracy. Preemptively play Plague Engineer. I think I'll preemptively play Plague Engineer. The reason being that next turn I really want to play Reality Smasher, and then after that I'll probably want to read the bones, and so the timing of Plague Engineer might become more awkward. This means that I might give my opponent a nice 1-for-1. Well, pretty good. But I'll get it back. I have to play City of Traders to have the colorless mana to cast Reality Smasher, otherwise Dark Ritual would be kind of cool here. Let the fight for the crown begin. I trample, so there's no just like jump block here. We will rename human. Then Palace Jailer can't just trade with Plague Engineer. Oh, nice. That Plague Engineer is really good too, because it means that I can set it on Elemental if my opponent Flicker Wisps. He's a genius. God, how does he do it? All right. Bottom of the ley line. Top the Plague Engineer. Don't mind this. This gives me colorless mana. I actually think I'm going to name human again, so that Palace Jailer can't be blinked if my opponent were to take certain lines. Since I have this other one that can now go on Elemental, my opponent can choose to trade off if they want. And if they don't, I can take it out later. Otherwise, I've eliminated some options like 2 toughness humans from being able to block Plague Engineer next turn. That's doing me a favor. Now I won't have as many options for tapping my mana. Like another land in my next 2 draws so that this can eliminate a creature. And that counts. Stay on the human line. I don't think I play this and expose this to Wasteland. That's rough for me. So now this Deadlands doesn't just, like, get me in there. They also can only activate this at sorcery speed, which is rough. How am I winning at this point? I mean, I really just need to become the Monarch and get my 5/5 back. That really helps with the Batterskull situation as well. The other way I can win is just assemble, like, Leyline Helm or something of that nature. Make a plan. Alright, am I playing towards the Leyline Helm? Find a Karn? I think I am. I also think one or both of us is starting to experience a little bit of moto lag. I'm going to build towards a Helm kill. If I can find another Reality Smasher, that can do some cool things too. I don't think my opponent is naming one under any circumstances, but I don't want to be wrong here. I assume Sanctum Prelate names 4. Yeah. Make a 5/5. If I do that, my opponent just batters called a Sanctum or Skyclave Apparition. My opponent's one-sided Howling Mine here is doing work. So I draw a land. Probably just names Arn. Could name Helm directly though. It is named Helm directly. Or it's bad. Or means that I can't cast my 4-drops that I just unlocked. I think we're in garbage time where my opponent has 1 and it takes a couple turns for that to just literally happen. So next turn, I am hoping to draw a land, make a large Stonecoil Serpent that can block the Batterskull, forcing my opponent to move it to Skyclave Apparition. And then I can block with a Plague Engineer, trade with the Skyclave Apparition, 3/3 back, get another chump block or 2 out of my creatures, and work towards removing the Revoker and then winning with Helm. And maybe there's some off chance that I can attack with the Trampling Stonecoil Serpent and take back the crown. My opponent was just able to fight over the monarchs so well this game. Alright, I mean, that's more or less like I drew it up. Like, my opponent still has so many cards. And all it's going to take is something like a Flicker Wisp, a Skyclave Apparition, a Path to Exile, and I kind of crumble here. Like, my opponent has so many outs to my situation. I don't even need if we need, like, I don't even know that we need to call them outs. Like, my opponent can keep doing what they're doing, and it will beat me eventually. Okay. They're opting not even to attack. Fine. I'm not in the situation where I can all-out alpha attack. Oh, am I? I can attack with 2 creatures and 100% get the monarchy back. I think I need to do that. It's awkward because my opponent can block the opposition agent and then it turns on recruiters and Stoneforges, which are currently off. But if my opponent just keeps drawing all of those cards, I think I will get buried. Oh, I'm really surprised they took the Stonecoil. Do I do this now? No, I don't think I let my opponent plan for it. They're not going to be able to pick that up to 3. I guess very specifically, Charming Prince bites me. Yeah, all right, let's not get got by a Charming Prince. Although, admittedly, letting them untap means that like a Restoration Angel would get me here. Reality Smasher attacking. No, I think I'm just a turtle. I'll eventually draw a Karn and get my opponent that way. My opponent still has 7 cards, and hopefully I've shut off a good number of them from doing meaningful things. think I'm okay with the Stonecoil attacking. But I don't think I need to. I think I'm going to play this one with the same patience that my opponent was playing it. And just ride the Monarch train for a little while. Yeah, there we go. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana for next turn. If I don't get wastelanded or ported. So now I either have 6 or 7 total mana now. Either way, I still get to Karn next turn. It is quite well protected. Like, I have something with reach even for things like Flicker Wisp. Well, I had something. Well, that's really awkward, isn't it? Oh no, I have another Stonecoil Serpent. Everything's fine. So now I don't just die to Flicker Wisp, Equip Batter Skull, crash in. Or well, okay, that couldn't happen. But now I don't just die to like something else that increases Flicker Wisp's power, like say Luminarch Aspirant. Or the White Force. Why'd you tutor for it, Phil? It was on top of your library. What a game. What an just absolutely insane game. Well played to my opponent as well. All right, let me drag some things around here. I have some things to say about this deck. Okay, so uh, just kind of thought process in order. Number one, deck feels like it has problems versus Delver, and I know from talking with Reaplecheap that who plays Curses, a similar style deck, that that has been a little bit of an issue too. Because a lot of the removal that you play is not as efficient as you want it to be against Delver. Against Delver, you really want to be playing 1 mana interaction so that you can just like stop the Delver before it starts getting hit, and so that you're better able to play around things like Daze and Wasteland and Spell Pierce that limit your mana or make it harder for you to cast your spells and let them resolve. And the sideboard removal that I have is like largely 3 mana stuff, or a removal spell that causes me to lose life. So I don't feel like we're good enough against Delver. And when you don't feel good against Delver, like that's a little bit of a rocky starting point. Number two, I feel like this deck's identity is a little bit torn between aggressive elements and controlling elements. And like, yes, I know I'm playing a prison deck, but let me explain. So Stonecoil Serpent and Reality Smasher are these two threats that really want you to have a lot of mana, and they push an aggressive narrative. But Opposition Agent is not aggressive, and Plague Engineer is not aggressive, and Leyline and Helm and Karn, those aren't aggressive in terms of life total. So what this deck is trying to do is have controlling elements and combo elements and aggressive elements all at the same time. And that means that these games end up playing out really differently, and that your plan is not necessarily consistent. So I think if you want to go the Stonecoil Serpent Reality Smasher route, you might be better off playing more aggressive creatures. So like, is Rotting Regisaur, for example, better in this deck? And I think there's another one that people were messing around with that's like largish. It has some ability where like it can come back from the graveyard or something. I ran into it on stream the other day. If you know the name of the card I'm talking about, please let me know, because I have no ability to search for it because I don't remember exactly what its stats look like. I know it was a largest creature you could cast off of Dark Ritual that had some other text that wasn't really relevant. All right, that's super vague, but if you can help me out here, please do. Read the Bones was really interesting. I think if you're going towards like a combo-y side and you play more Helm of Obedience, like if you're a build that plays 3 Helm of Obedience in the main deck, I think I like this to help you find the other piece of the combo that you need. But I'm not sure that I like that here. Like when you're on like the Reality Smasher sorts of hands, like you just want another thing that can influence your opponent's life total or get blockers out of the way, right? Overall, like this deck gets passing marks, but I still feel like there's room for growth. I'm not sure how I feel about the Wastelands. Like the Wastelands are there probably primarily as a colorless mana source for the Reality Smasher, and I respect it in that regard. But a lot of the hands where we tried to go in on an early Wasteland just resulted in me not having enough mana sources for the end game. We saw that versus Delver, I believe, where I Wastelanded them both on turns 1 and 2, and then I just kind of got stuck. All right, thank you to Simone S once again for donating to see this deck in action. And if you made it this far in the video, please consider doing something to support me, whether it's a like, a comment, or a donation deck list of your own. And if you want to try this one out, remember deck list and donation information are always in the video description. Have a great rest of the day, folks.